We are
Yeah,
now
online.
Good evening. Welcome to our rescheduled April board meeting. We have two new board members who have also been elected and sworn in already. We will do our call to order beginning over here with Jeff.
Jeff Hanley.
Diane Potter.
Molly Rogers.
Laura Henderson.
Linda Caputo.
Alyssa Tracy.
Becky Fless.
Tony Pete.
Jack Bitteroff.
Megan Carlson.
Sage Grover.
Sean Pogue.
Joanne O'Brien.
And our new board members tonight are Linda and Sean. I'd like to welcome you both to the board and hope that it's just as much fun as we think it is for you. Administrative staff.
Pat Hopkins, Superintendent.
Josh Farr, Director of Adult Education.
Tiffany Cockrell, Principal at Pittston Randolph Consolidated School.
Sarah Sims, Principal at Gardner Regional Middle.
Angela Hardy, Director of Curriculum.
Andrea Tisch, Business Manager. Lauren Arnold, Principal, Gardner Area High School.
Vicki Duguay, Principal of Riverview Community School.
Katie Gould, Principal at Helen Thompson School.
Sarah Bolduc, Ignatius, Assistant Director of Special Services.
Terry McGuire, Director of Technology.
And because this was rescheduled, not every administrator could be here this evening, so.
We did our best. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Angela, may I have the list? Thank you. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. We're about to convene into the public comment period of our meeting. State law in Maine requires a public comment item on agendas of full meetings of the school board. We also believe it's critical to hear from our community members about their concerns and issues, and are so pleased to have this as an agenda item. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion. Accordingly, please do not expect the board to respond to your concerns and questions tonight. This is because we take your concerns and your questions very seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if needed. We will, if appropriate, respond to your questions and concerns at a future meeting or have the proper staff member get back to you at the appropriate time. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel, particular student matters, any rumors presented as facts that compromise the privacy of others, and any health or medical information protected as confidential. Please know, however, that we take all concerns very seriously. On any matter of concern, we would ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels, the chain of command. Finally, we recognize that right now in our nation and our community, we are polarized on a number of issues. That said, we want our school board meetings to serve as an example to our students that members of our school board and members of our community can deal with controversial issues in a civil manner and demonstrate mutual respect for one another. In that spirit, we will insist that all speakers and members of the audience remain civil and respect any divergent views to that of the audience. Speakers may address items pertinent to tonight's meeting agenda or any topic dealing with school or educational matters. In the unlikely event that the meeting becomes unruly, the board will recess the meeting and return once order has been restored. Finally, I want to remind everyone that you may submit written comments to the board in lieu of speaking during the public comment period if you so choose. We also have a board pamphlet, Welcome to the School Board Meeting, that provides a copy of policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings, that explicitly outlines the manner in which the public comment will be managed. Individuals who wish to speak are required to fill out the sign-in form, and thank you so much for doing that in advance. Those who wish to speak will be required to state their name, town, city, of residents before beginning their remarks. We will have 20 minutes for public comment as it is a big agenda. And I need a board member so we have a timekeeper. So Alyssa will keep everyone to 2 minutes.
Yep.
And 20 minutes will be 7 o'clock. So I would like to ask, please, for Ruby Caldwell to go to the podium.
I'll give you a heads up, Ruby, when you have 10 seconds, okay?
Okay. Hi, my name is Ruby Caldwell. I'm from Gardner and I'm a senior at Gardner High School this year. Let me get straight to the point. With these intended budget cuts, the education of students at Gardner High School will be compromised, specifically eliminating an English position, when it is a class which every student has to take every single year. One of the few things I admire about Gardner is the dedication of the staff. And that is always shown by the members of the English department, whether it's a shoulder to cry on or reading classical works and connecting them to real life. Because this is real life. And in real life, literacy scores are plummeting. And if you, the school board, see it fit to cut this position and part of the program that the English department has brought to the school, you will regret it. Electives are a huge part of so many students' education, and some of them are the reason why students are allowed to be full-time students in high school. I do not want my brother to enter high school and be robbed from experiences that I cherished. And I do not want I don't want that for anyone because learning comes differently for everyone. And I hope my words today have given you knowledge on a student's perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen Paul?
Hi, everyone. I'm emotional, so I apologize in advance. I care very deeply about all of the teachers in the school district. Thank you. Because they're all very special to me. And anytime there's talk about teachers being cut, it really affects me, and it hurts because I'm so proud of this school district. I love this school district with all of my heart. And I love the English department, the science department, the math department, everybody, you know, and it's a special place. And I just wish every time I get those newsletters that show how much money is spent per student in this district, it's extremely low. It is one of the lowest in the state. And it's embarrassing. It's awful because our students are our future. And that's not what we should be cutting, is education. And I am very happy to spend more tax money for our kids, for our future. And my kids are out of the school system now. And it means so much to me that we have such a caring community. And the other point is that the teachers aren't only just teaching book knowledge, they're caring, supportive people. That means so much. I mean, my daughter suffered from mental illness. She's a senior at Harvard now. She would not be there today if it weren't for this group of teachers that Miss Benedict met with her on weekends. Miss Gingras goes to her plays in Boston. This Mr. Lassard used to go to her plays in college. Miss Cheeseman, she's best friends with Miss Cheeseman's son. You know, she's. And Miss Whitten, we love you
10
all
seconds,
too.
Jen.
Yeah, we just love this community, and just please don't cut any more teacher positions. They're so important. Thank you.
Good, thank you. It's our 2 minutes.
There
I
it
love
is.
it. Okie dokie. Connor Tibbetts?
Hi, my name is Connor Tibbetts. I'm a freshman at Gardner Area High School. I've come here today to talk about the budget cuts, specifically the English ones. Because when I was first coming in, I was very scared about doing honors English. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get the summer homework done. But I emailed Miss Benedict and she just supported me through all of it. I even accidentally sent her the wrong essay for the social studies essay. But she's always been there to support me whenever I needed help. If I needed help when we were reading Romeo and Juliet, I could go talk to her and she would help point out the answer, but not just point it out. She would guide me to the answer so I could learn how to do it next time. And then also Miss Gingras, I go into her room to eat lunch and she's just always there. She's always supporting us. And I feel like if I ever needed something, I could go to them and I just get all the support I need. And I don't have to worry about taking a class because I think it'll be too hard, because if I need the support, I can go to them. So I think it'll just be a lot harder on them and us, just have bigger classes where we can't get as much one-on-one time with the teachers. And yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Connor. Thank you. Chad Waterhouse.
Yes, good evening. My name is Chad Waterhouse. I do live in Augusta. However, I've been the boys Gardner tennis coach for the last 4 or 5 years. For obvious and real reasons, we cut the program a little bit this year just because of lack of inactivity. Since COVID, the inactivity has kind of been a big reason for that. However, I'm just here to provide permission to see if we could still have a club for these athletes. I'm not asking for any money or anything like that. I would like to volunteer for this position because there are several athletes that are still willing to come up from this program. We've also seen a lot of interest in the middle school for the future coming up, that we'd like to get some of these kids and maybe even get the program back up and running. So I'm just honestly asking for permission to have a club inside the school. There will be no financial need as we don't use any indoor venues or anything like that, no refs and no transportation. So just wanted to bring permission and access from that, guys. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Lori Gingras.
Good evening. My name is Lori Gingras. I am a Gardner Area High School English teacher, a proud Gardner Area High School English teacher. I'm also the mother of 2 sons, Tom, a 2022 graduate of Gardner High School, and Henry, who is currently a sophomore, and some of you may know him as Seymour on the front cover of the book. I've taught at 3 other high schools, and if you think that I was doing a little bit of shopping around for my own children, you're right. Gardner Area High School is the best high school. I belong to the most amazing department. I am so proud of my colleagues. I'm proud of our students. I brought my graphic novel as an elective cape with me, but I decided I would leave it in my bag. On behalf of the English department, I'd like to thank the board for considering the 2 letters that we wrote to share clarifying details about our programming. I also would like to share an anecdote. I was recently telling our lovely new principal, Lauren Arnold, about the Exploring the Graphic Novel elective. And I said, if you want to know what equity is all about, you just walk into our elective courses and you will see it in action. I have students from the Life Skills program in wheelchairs, and I have students in the AP program, in the AP classes, in the same class. And it is magical. And that is the exact same word I told Lauren. It's magical. And so I hope that, with our clarifying details that we shared, and with all—
10 seconds, Lori.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And with the other, this other support, all the lovely support we've had, that you'll consider not filling the English position. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Lori. And Alan Utsnippis.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm also a teacher at Gardner Area High School. I'm not a part of the English department or the science department. Fortunately, my position isn't on the block this year. So I'm here really to speak for the students and also the rest of my colleagues at the high school. I do not envy you the position you are in. You are in an awful bind. because you want to support education, but you also have to present a budget that's palatable to taxpayers, and there's no means there. It's a terrible place to be, so I do empathize with you there. I understand, from looking at the numbers, looking at the math, why the cuts have to be made. And don't wish to make this an us versus them type of situation. There are clearly savings to be made by releasing people. But I'm also concerned that there are costs to that. And those costs don't have a line item in your budget. When we lose people, we lose the ability to deliver some pretty critical services. When we lose people, we still have to do the same amount of work with the same number of people. Those people can't provide the same level of quality to 120, 130 or more students that they can to 90 or 100 students. So even if you're lucky enough to stay, the job that you do is going to be compromised. There are costs to that. I'm also concerned because I think some of my colleagues are going to end up teaching 6 courses next year. That's above the industry standard. There are other districts where those teachers can teach. There are job openings.
10 seconds, Alan.
Within a half an hour of Gardner, we're not quite at a medium level salary. Why would I stay to teach 6 when I can go to teach 5, maybe? So consider some of those costs that don't have a line item in the budget.
Thank you, Alan. And if there's no one else to speak, we'll continue with the agenda.
Do you have any emails that you were gonna read or no? No, but we have emails.
We have emails,
Okay,
but-
those are shared with all the board.
Usually ask for public comments.
Yeah, that's a practice that we were advised to not do after that last
Okay.
big meeting. Our attorney was, people send out those emails, they
Yep.
go to the board, you don't then turn around and necessarily read them back to them.
Okay.
They're on file, they're on record.
Okay, thank you. Prioritization of items and alteration of the established agenda format
I
sequence.
do
as
not
needed.
have any more changes than the revised agenda that was submitted or released yesterday.
Then I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion carries. Approval of minutes of previous meetings, regular school board meeting of March 7th, motion to accept.
So moved.
Motion by Tony,
Second.
second by Jeff. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Motion carries.
Angela, could you turn the heat down possibly? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna fry right out of here.
You're gonna love this new seat.
Oh, God. Thank you.
Recognition and celebrations. I'd like to again take a moment to welcome Linda Caputo, who is our new school board representative from Pittston, and to welcome Sean. Sean, how do you pronounce your last name?
Vote.
Oak?
Yeah, the T silent.
The T is
Very
perfect.
good.
Great. Thank you. I want to thank you both for being willing to serve and welcome you to the board. And again, I hope you love it. Anything for kids, we do our best. And also I want to recognize Chris McLaughlin. You'll notice he's absent for his 2 years of service on the board. We will miss him and perhaps he'll come back. Correspondence as written.
Yes.
Alrighty. Committee reports, CATC.
The board's new representative to the CATC board to replace Jim Lothridge is Linda Caputo. So Linda, do you want to give them an update?
I attended the meeting on Monday and there were 2 topics. The first one was determining how the high school students there could earn credits necessary for graduation while in the program. And that is being discussed at a state level and in various other places. The second chunk of time was dedicated to meeting the chairman, the head of a new program, which is basically a police academy type program. And he talked about how they have their own cruisers that the students can go out in, asked for volunteers to be pulled over, and was very enthusiastic about his program. And the culinary school provided a meal for us that was Chinese, probably,
Yes, it was
and
awesome.
was very tasty.
Really good. Excellent. Thank you, Linda. Curriculum committee,
I know, I'm not fast enough tonight, see?
that's okay.
Angela's gonna keep me honest. I remember this week's,
Uh-oh.
I know, same, I had to look it up.
okay? Do you mind helping me?
I'm happy to.
I know it's in the packet too, but I don't have the big one
We
printed.
did just have a meeting this past.
Oh,
week, but we
good.
won't
Pat,
report
look,
on that
Pat,
one
see why
because
she
it's
puts
not
me here?
Yeah.
So thank you.
Oh, you got it?
Yes, so yes, that's correct. We had some folks go over the supporting of students' mental health, and we've talked about the United Way grant. We reviewed that. We talked about a upcoming event called the Mental Game that's going to be coming to the high school, which is funded through the Healthy Communities of the Capital Area. That's pretty cool. It's an athletic person who has gone back and realized mental health is important. And he's going to be visiting, which is awesome. And, oops, what did I do? You got a fancy computer, Pat. Look at you. And that was it. What else we got? Oh, we talked about there was an consideration for an app that might be helpful for students, but it looked like we were going to go back and query and see if that would be worth. And it probably in budget times, maybe not this year, but maybe another time. We shall see. But and we just met this week, but we'll talk about that next month. So that's fine. And that's that.
Okay, any questions for Alyssa? What's the app?
It was an AI app that has like a llama that you could talk to if you had some anxiety or things you wanted to. If you didn't feel like talking to your mama, you could talk to the llama.
Put alongside,
Wow.
and it's for students to be able to use, it would be targeted for middle school, high school students. So if they had a fight with a friend and they needed someone to talk to, that app gave them that venue on the weekend, at
Yeah.
night. And so we were exploring it at the
Yeah.
high school. I actually am not currently certain where the status is. We had students testing it,
Right.
to see whether they liked it or not. And we may have some federal dollars that we can
Oh, there you go.
use to cover the cost,
Interesting.
so.
Yeah, AI based, but the idea of like, it's run by professionals that are licensed social workers or professionals in that. So it's not just like me running it or somebody, right? You know,
Right, right.
somebody that knows the words that are good to recognize and when to alert somebody and things like that.
Oh, that's
So,
very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, dropout prevention.
I was not able to attend, unfortunately.
But I've got you.
I knew Sarah would.
So we had our meeting, we are still working on looking at the dropout prevention plan. We are currently, we've gone through several revisions of updating it, making the language more friendly, looking at the letters, and we've decided that as we've been aligning it to the MTSS tiers, those multi-tiered systems of support, that really we have sort of two different layers in that elementary and secondary lens. And so we actually are going back and bringing it to those two different team layers. And then we're coming back at our next one to then try to put it all into one big document again to bring back to the board to present and show you what our suggestions are to those changes.
And in addition, we just
Yes,
recently
correct.
received a recommendation from your association to develop a policy on retention.
Yep, so that'll be part of our next.
So I've
meeting. Yep.
sent it to the committee to take a look at it and make some a few recommended modifications. Yeah.
All right, any questions for Sarah? Hearing none? So move along. Let's see, Finance Committee meetings. So the last several meetings, February 27, March 12, 19 was canceled, and 26 and April 2nd. All of those meetings were working on the budget. So I would encourage any and all of you, rather than listening to me dissect it poorly, to watch our live streamed meetings. They're very informative. There's a lot of good discussion in there. You'll see that none of us likes the position that we're in. And we're all looking for a way out, but we need to do what we need to do. So I want to encourage you all to watch those meetings. Let's see, on, let's see, policy committee.
No, you want them to finance.
Oh, this one, I want to do this one here.
Yeah.
Okay. The discussion to potentially reconsider whether to install floor-to-ceiling bathroom stalls in 4 bathrooms at Gardner Regional Middle School. I want to, first of all, before we get into any kind of discussion, I want to explain why I voted to rescind the decision to complete the renovation at the middle school. I was struck when Chris said to the effect that we promised the public we would do it. So we need to. What struck me in that moment is that we don't make promises to any group. We don't make promises to the public. We listen to their concerns, as we've done tonight, listen to concerns, and then we take appropriate action. I've had time to think about it and talk with Gabe, talk with Angela about my concerns at the place. And I'm at the place where I believe that in the best interest of the administration at the middle school and the students is to do the project. It will make life better for the administrators and the staff at the middle school. It will give opportunities for our students to choose the bathroom that they most closely align with. And it will also make our restrooms ADA compliant, which is a much needed adjustment. So I hope that we can move forward with this project and would entertain a brief conversation, as brief as necessary, but I'm looking forward for a motion to begin this project as soon as possible. So I would entertain conversation
I'll do the,
or make a motion. You
I'll
can
do the
certainly
motion
do
to start the project.
that. Okay. Second from
Who was
Molly.
that?
Molly.
All right, now we can go to the questions and conversation portion. Are there questions? Is there conversation? Yes, Diane.
I was moved by 2 of our administrators saying that they had seen this floor to ceiling type bathroom in other school districts and that it improved behavior. And I think finding areas on our campuses that add to peace and respect is all to the good.
That's it. Excellent. Anyone else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I asked to have this
Yep.
reevaluated, and for a multitude of reasons, we discussed them a little bit last time. But one of them is that once you do it in one building, you're gonna have to do it in other buildings. It's gonna become very expensive. You won't be able to get away with doing it only in one facility. So that's issue one. The other issue is that you're creating a cubicle that no one can see in, either over the top or under the bottom. And activity can take place inside there that you may not want to take place. The present type of stalls that you have allows for some visibility and inspection of at least how many people are in the stall. So that is why I would prefer not to go ahead with that part of the project. I think upgrading bathrooms to be ADA compliant is a great idea, but I would not support the ceiling to floor petitions for A, for cost, and B, for the possibility of you might be creating situations that can take place, whether drug use or any other thing that can take place. I mean, we're all talking, everyone is talking about LD 40, the marijuana bill that's before the legislature. And, you know, the drug issue in school is pretty intense. And when you give children who, you know, kids are kids, you give them a special spot to hide, they're gonna do it. So for that reason, I don't support the floor to ceiling issue, and that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Jack.
If I recall, when we were discussing, maybe it was on our tour, we were talking about making those bathrooms arranged in such a way that yes, they had those floor to ceiling doors, but the other not public facing, but the other more community areas would be readily visible to teachers.
Yes.
So there wouldn't be so much of an opportunity for people to be creeping around into, closed doors,
Yes. That's true. Gabe was with us and he pointed out how that would, positive impact of doing this project would be. Joanne, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I believe, there were 2 bathrooms that were single stall that were going to be changed with the door so that it was an occupied, unoccupied. Is that still happening? Is that part of the 70,000?
That's not part of the 70,000. That would be a really easy fix if that's what we choose to do. It's not going to cost a significant amount just to put occupied or unoccupied.
I was, I'm opposed to the floor to ceiling only because of the cost, but also I don't think that the original reason for it stands up to scrutiny in that there haven't been any incidents where people had to get into or were doing things that would cause us to want to partition it off. And so I don't see spending $70,000 on that. I think putting the doors on the other ones with the occupied and unoccupied is great. But I don't think spending $70,000 on an issue that's not really an issue is a worthwhile expenditure of the 70,000 when we're looking at other cuts that are much more impactful on our students.
And again, the $70,000 is out of this year's budget, so it has no bearing on the cuts that are in the budget.
But if it's not spent, doesn't it carry forward?
It goes into a
Yes,
carry forward fund.
Goes into a
yes.
carry forward fund. Yep. Sean, I saw your hand creeping up.
Yeah, so is there hard data on any of this? Like, so what you're saying is that, what some of the principals that they saw that it was in other places and installed in other places, but do we actually have any studies or anything like that that shows like, an improvement in behavior or negative effects of behavior? Because I mean, you know, growing up and everything like that, it's always been very open. So, I mean, I've even, some of my schools growing up, they actually completely like removed doors. So like none of the stalls have doors. So, I mean, like I said, so I'd just be curious as to if there's actually data on this one way or the other, and has it been reviewed? I mean, I know I'm brand new here. But
You know,
I'm just asking
no,
questions.
and that's not a terrible question at all. I can't provide you data. What I can provide you is that we have spent a lot of time with some, a lot of board time doing exactly what Joanne said, and that's trying to fix a problem that has created unrest. And a solution would be so helpful to the administration in that building, in the middle school, realizing that it opens a can of worms in the high school. But it seems as though in talking with Gabe that a remedy at the high school is a much easier thing. What you were talking about is the occupied versus not occupied. It's easier to do that in the high school than it is in the middle school. It's a can of worms and it's unfortunate, but we just need to create peace. We need students to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
And just use the bathroom. And I grew up also, as you, where you did, where sometimes there were no doors on the bathroom. That's a really great way to make sure nothing's going on. But we don't seem to be in that world right now, unfortunately. So we're having to deal with something a little bit different and to accommodate some people.
I mean, like I was just gonna read through even the notes here. It says that like, and we don't make decisions on thoughts and feelings. We make decisions on facts and evidence. And this doesn't
Correct.
really sound like facts or evidence.
Correct. I wish Gabe was here. Maybe he could help with that.
So maybe Gabe could, I mean, we do not have any data
You're right
from
about that.
research. However, we do have anecdotal data from conversations with other administrators in other school districts who did install them. And that they're telling us that has been a decline in those schools as a result. That's the type of data that we've collected, but I don't have anything that I can show you concretely.
And you're right, we work really hard not to make any decisions based on feelings. But you will find that a lot of feelings come here. And that can make life very complicated. And I don't know if that helped or not, but it's where we are right this minute.
Okay.
Sage,
Is that okay if I offer some student perspective?
I'd love it if you did. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the purpose of this district is to make our students feel comfortable and safe and feel like they can be in an environment where the only thing they have to focus on is learning. And I think right now our student population doesn't feel the safest that they could feel, or the most comfortable that they could feel, I guess is a better word. And I just think that anything that we can do, regardless, I guess, of maybe the firsthand cost, would be beneficial in the long term so that we could focus more on things that are, more pressing. I think it's important. I think part of our job is to comfort people and make sure that they are comfortable and safe. And I think that, I think this would just kind of help everybody calm down and focus on other things.
We have, no, I hear you, and I think we spent a lot of time in this boardroom hearing about the feelings of our students, and we also are here to respond as best we can. And I don't want to put you on the spot, Sarah, but do you feel like this would be helpful?
I do. I think that our students and their parents and families and guardians are seeking options. I think that they're looking for, this is not creating an environment where all of our kiddos are feeling safe or comfortable. This would give students multiple options. It's not all of the bathrooms that are being remodeled. It's more the ones closest to our common areas. Where maybe we have, like, during lunch, these are the bathrooms where everyone would go. We would have the single stalls still available. We still have other options like the nurse's office and staff for other various needs. But this would let kids be able to choose what is helping make them feel comfortable so that they can then access what they really need to be focusing on, which is their education, instead of who's in the bathroom with me. And that's really what I think this is about, is making sure our kids feel comfortable enough to have those options without feeling like someone's looking at them weird for using an option. It's just there. And that way they can do what they need to do in the bathroom, hopefully, and then get right back, right? And focus on what they need to be doing in class.
And that's partly what made me rethink it was, what do you need? What do you need from us? And I want to make sure that we can provide that as best we can. And I don't know, Sean, if you know this or not, but we're not allowed to tell anybody where they go to the bathroom. That's the law. And so if we've never had any incident of a trans person doing anything they shouldn't do, but the law says that the Supreme Court in Maine said that we need to allow students to use the bathroom that they most associate with. And so that's part of the reason for this remodel, is to accommodate any student who would like to use a bathroom privately or doesn't. We just need them to go to the bathroom and go back to class. That's what we need. So that's what prompted this. Megan.
I was just gonna add basically what you said and what Sarah was saying. Making that decision about even putting the bathroom in after all the discussion we had and all of the people that came in and gave their perspectives. Ultimately, my thinking was, what does the administration see as a need? And that's what they came up with, and they really think that that's something that's going to help. And I don't see it as anything that's going to hurt, and moving forward, yeah, it may be something that we have to do in other buildings, which I feel like is not a reason to not do it. I think if anything, it's a reason to do it, because it will be something that needs to be done or something similar down the road in other situations. And if that gives any clarifying, I don't know, insight into why I think we should just do it. Especially, it's so hard to even think about the bathroom right now. It's so hard because I'm thinking about the English teachers and I'm thinking about the science.
No, I get
teachers.
it.
It's so hard.
And we've spent so much time talking about the bathroom. that distracts us from the rest of the work that we're supposed to be doing. So if we can just get one thing accomplished and put that aside so that we can do what we need to do moving forward. Yes, Laura.
I'd just like to say that I completely agree with Sage. I think that going ahead with this will definitely also help us build trust with the community in our school that really needs that support from our school board. And I think that in the long run, it will definitely improve our school community as well. Yeah, thanks.
You skipped over Tony.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Way
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah, right. Make a little bit more notice. Yeah.
Sorry.
So I just want to appreciate that we did agree to do this. One of the things I like about this is that there's an ADA compliance there. Not necessarily pressing, but it also meets a need there. So it's a good opportunity to kind of mix those two pieces. And I know we're spending a lot of time on bathrooms, and really we need kids at this age to really go and take care of their business independently and get back to class. My understanding of the design is that there's actually a slight gap at the top, I think, so that these are not airtight.
Right.
So I would imagine anything that is like smoke or vape kind of thing would be as noticeable or fairly quickly as in any of these other situations, the current kind of layout. And like Jack was saying, I think my understanding that there would be a change so that the washing area would be visible from the hallway for staff, which would improve, I think, at least some of the where behaviors could be happening or anything of concern. So it does streamline some things. I appreciate that there are costs associated here, that it is hard to imagine as we're talking about other costs, but one thing at a time. And what problem are we trying to solve, right? There wasn't an initial primary incident or incidents that demanded this. And yet it seems like something that is worth exploring, and we do have the money again to do an update and an upgrade to these facilities. So I would say let's go forward with this plan, and we can see what happens from it and gain some data from that. But the anecdotal stuff we have indicates that this is going to be a benefit to the students and administration in supporting them.
Absolutely. And my understanding is also that there will be vape detectors in these. Gabe had said something about that.
Each one, he said.
Okay. Yeah, because he'd heard that concern as well. So. All right, if there's no more discussion, we have a lot to do. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of moving forward with this project? Opposed? Do we need to do wait?
I can, if you give me just a minute.
Becky, while Pat's doing wait, may I report on one more finance agenda item?
I would love it if you did.
Thank you.
Please, would you stand at the podium?
So, what was reported on, I believe, the March 12th Finance Committee meeting was that the district's financial audit for the year ending 6/30/2023 was finally submitted to the state. It was late because of the lack of auditors, but I am happy to report there were no deficiencies, comments, or anything of that sort. So we are in good shape, and I am happy to report. So
well done. Yay. All righty. Thank you.
Okay, just a second. I need to make sure I get the notes down.
Yeah. Yep. While you do that, each town's vote counts for a certain percentage based on our population. So that's why Pat's doing that, just so you're aware.
Yes, so this is a 12-member board. There are 11 members here tonight. So the total number of points is 12,463. We had all but 3 people vote in favor, and that works out to 5,203 voted in favor and 3,630 voted against, so it passes.
Thank you. All right, policy committee.
All right, thanks so much. Let's see, I have, we met on March 7th. I have a bundle of job descriptions and one policy for a first reading. And just as a quick review, the job descriptions were something that, let's see, Pat had been looking forward to taking care of. Let's see, there are updates provided to existing descriptions based on both traditional work and updates from current practice. So it's using those pieces of information to inform where we do the updates. Those are included in let's see, the virtual packet that was sent, not the revised packet that was very recent, but the original agenda packet for this meeting. So those are included in there. A lot of the stuff we'll go through just so you get a flavor for the policy committee meetings. We'll talk about where a closed parenthesis goes or font size, spelling. We'll also do connections to statute and make sure that those are updated and they link to other policies as we intend. So we do explore how those connections happen. And then the policy that we have here, IKF graduation requirements, we updated it to include Roman numerals in it, titles, and then clarification of honors and awards. So the grading system and Latin honors. So let's see, if I could, I'd like to make a motion for first reading for the job descriptions as labeled and the policy.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Excellent. Bunch carries. Perfect. Student reps.
Okay, so first off, we have the annual Cinderella Project of Maine is this Saturday, April 13th. 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's designed to give a free prom dress to any student who needs one. It's always, the turnout is always really great, so that's happening. Interact has 2 events this May. We have Touch a Truck, which is May 19th, 10 to 2. We're designing this to be an opportunity for kids to kind of just like look at all the big trucks that we have in Gardner, but also as a job fair for high school students. That will be towards the end of the event, towards like 1 to 6. Our craft fair is May 4th, 9 to 3. We Interact Clouds with student council this year, so they're going to have their annual yard sale as well as the same time as the craft fair. The robotics team made it to districts. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we did have pretty bad matchups, so that's as far as we got. But we do appreciate the funding. Okay, and I want to make this last part super quick. But it is Aura's job to provide student voice. And being a student representative on the board, I understand the budget is incredibly difficult. But a lot of students are worried that there's just not going to be as many resources to gain experiences and knowledge that they would like to. Kind of an incentive to going to school is to be able to pick those kind of more fun classes, like the electives. And it's like a lot of people said here, it's very important to a lot of our students. And I understand that the budget is very, very difficult, but that's just a majority of the students' thoughts on it, just to give a perspective.
Sage, where is the craft fair?
The craft fair is at the high school.
Okay, very
store
good.
because
Thank
we have
you. I
too
just
many
wanted to
members.
clarify. Go to the wrong place.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, just to add to Sage a little bit, also, electives really allow students to think outside of the box, that more than they would do in a normal, standard class. and be more creative. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna add. Okay, so the drama club had a successful performance of The Princess Bride, regardless of it being postponed because of the wild snowstorm, not windstorm. We had in the middle of spring. The shows were April 5th, April 6th, which was my birthday.
Yes, it was.
And we actually have our two leads in the front row.
Yes.
And
Right.
And the English department is welcoming Gareth Hines again for his annual author visit on Monday, April 22nd in the Little Theater. Gareth Hines, if you don't know, is an award-winning author, illustrator of graphic novels and other books based on classic literature, history, and mythology. It's truly an amazing visit, and I saw it my freshman year, and I was truly inspired. Anyways, thank you to our amazing English department. Parents-teacher conferences were a success. Just wanted to put that out there. Thank you to all our teachers and to all of you, just because. All right, and prom is May 11th. The theme is Over the Moon, and tickets are still on sale, so get them while you can. Thank you.
Can I add one thing that you girls didn't mention? We met with the sophomore class this week.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Oh, yeah.
For next year.
Yeah.
With our graduating, we need to have a replacement. So they joined me at a sophomore class meeting on Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday morning.
Yes.
And we explained this opportunity to them. The applications are due on, I believe, May 10th. I will be reaching out to you. I don't know how you want to do it. We conduct interviews of those students who apply. So we will be conducting those interviews and fully expect that we will have a student to present to you at the June board meeting. So.
I'll add one more too, if you don't mind. The middle school's production of The Wizard of Oz is the beginning of May. We have a new drama director in the middle school and she's going all out. And a lot of these students are helping. Yes, a lot of these students are helping there as well, but that's May 2, 3, and 4. So I may miss, we'll see how it goes, but I'll come to the meeting and then run over there, but throw that out. Yeah. Awesome.
And just to add on to what you said, Pat, I've already had some really amazing kids approach me and ask for tips on like the process and stuff. So I think the next student board rep will be
Nice.
Love it. Excellent.
Great. Great. Excellent. Yes.
Administrative report is next. May I make a recommendation? Knowing how people are anxious to get to the budget conversation, wondering if we could kind of skip the reading of the entire report because it's lengthy. It is in writing. And maybe just ask if there's any administrator who's here that has one thing that they really feel like they need to share. They don't need to, that's totally fine. But if there's one thing that they were really anxious to share and wanted to get up to the podium, great. If not, we'll just forego the reading. Would that be okay?
It's fine with me. It's fine with everyone else.
I think so.
Is there anyone that's just itching to stand up there and tell us?
Okay, I guess not.
Okay, I guess we're good.
Itching might be the wrong word.
Snowstorm was there, I'm like, I don't remember.
I'm ready for this one. You want me to try for wellness? It's in the meeting. Look at, see, I'm like, thank gosh. Wellness I can do quickly if you'd like.
Sure.
So we met with the nurses in the district. A few folks were absent and also our HCCA folks, Patricia Buck-Welton. And we went through they had all been to a conference and had some great ideas and energy around a proposal that they're gonna put forth. And they rotate through, so different nurses get to go every year, which is excellent. So we had a couple new nurses, you could tell we're real energized for some great ideas. And probably the coolest thing, which I've seen coming home, is they're doing this, working together, creating this wellness event about walking to Disney World. challenge. So in the elementary schools, they've got a packet where they can fill in Mickey's head and how many miles they've written. And for the older students, they've got Google Forms. And so a cool way to get people outside and get moving.
And I heard, and we haven't been able to talk.
Yeah.
That the central office and the transportation department are doing it. I'm wondering why if this is a school board committee, why isn't the school board included?
Well, I
as
offered
part of it?
myself, I'm in,
All right.
right. We kind of said, you guys might need this group to add to the central
Correct,
office, yes. We agree.
Okay, so
So
what do
maybe
we,
more information will be sent
yeah,
out
what do
to
we
you.
need to do? Yeah,
So we just
can-
gotta walk.
I can do that.
Walk
all the
And
time.
keep track of it.
And every 20 minutes that you walk, we get to fill in our own little head, and it's a competition between elementary, middle, high school, and now the offices. Transportation and board apparently. They get to have the kids help them. We don't.
We just
have
gotta
that.
get moving.
We're just gonna have to walk 24/7.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
Yeah, so fun. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Okay.
Can I do that real quick? Riverview's our guard. I just went out with my Strava and we've mapped out our playground and I've got the kids, I haven't told them why, but we already are practicing.
Oh, no.
Wow.
That sounds like a little healthy competition.
Yep. They
All
said,
right.
we're doing this after break. I said, yes, we are.
All right, get us the details and we will walk till our feet are tired. Excellent. Okey doke, Brookfield, no meeting. General information,
Just as provided.
okay. No nominations.
No,
new
but you
business.
should plan on seeing nominations starting next month.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
beginning
so, right?
to, I have 2 interviews tomorrow,
All right.
and more next week.
Very
So
good.
we're starting to fill vacant positions.
Great, okay. New business.
All right, new business. I'm gonna fill in for Gabe. For those of you who are not aware, the Great Race is returning to Gardner. It's going to be here on June 30th, so the end of, after the school year. And it is supposed to occur between 12 PM and 8 PM. When they were here before, the city requested that our school buses be used to help shuttle individuals down to the Great Race. There's just not going to be room for parking, and of course, they can't drive down there. So when they were last here, that is something that the school board approved. That was back in 2018. So they're asking for the same, and what it would entail is that we would have 2 buses starting at 11 AM for early arrivals, 2 additional buses at 12. So we'd have a total of 4 buses running from noon until 5, and then 2 buses from 5 to 8. There would be parking at the high school, at the middle school, and at the Laura E. Richards School. In addition to those, they would be like at EJP, Boys and Girls Club, Gardner Credit Union, Gardner Common, and the Park and Ride. There is a cost associated with it. The total cost that he anticipates is $516.69. So we need your endorsement to utilize our buses to be able to provide that transportation at our cost. It's a great community event. And we have been able to support our community in the past doing this. And so I would make that recommendation to you if you so choose to support it.
So moved.
Right, motion by Alyssa,
Second.
second by Tony. Questions, comments? Yes, John.
So you're gonna have 4 buses with drivers
Yes.
and fuel, and it's only gonna come to 500 and something.
That's what he says here, that we have 2 buses that will be driving at 9 hours at $26.91 an hour. You have 2 buses that are 5 hours for the same amount. And then we have two routes. And one route, he is expecting 30.12 gallons at $2.84. The next route 19.16 gallons at 2.84. Remember, what we pay is cheaper than
Yeah.
what you pay at the price because we don't pay
By a lot.
taxes. Right? We don't tax, so ours is cheaper.
Yeah.
And so when you add all of that up, $516.69.
Okay, thank you.
Did he add in the mileage that we have to pay? He did not ask me to look at that.
I do not see the mileage.
The
I'm
city
wondering
office.
how many miles will be traveled. If we will have to pay.
So it may be higher, he may have, but I don't know how much, 700 maybe? It'd be under 1,000, how's
It
that?
depends how many loops they do with the
Yeah.
bus and how many miles they travel.
Yeah, he planned on 30 gallons, how many miles can you get in 30 gallons? 5 miles a gallon, 7 miles a gallon, it's not a lot. Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
We need to vote on that?
Yes,
Please.
so all those in favor, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of supporting the Great Race? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Race on. Okay, next we have boys tennis team.
All right, so you have already in public comment, had an idea of what this is in regards. Nate, would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, sure. So back about 3 years ago, we fell below our minimum requirement for policy JJAP for boys tennis for the first year. Then the second year we were down below, and then last year I asked for an extension for that policy for the boys tennis to hopefully get the boys tennis team back. We were again below last year. So according to, being in line with policy JJAP, we essentially discontinued the boys tennis program for this year. I'm here tonight to ask that we form a club. We did preliminary signups for boys tennis. We had 7 boys sign up so far. I've reached out to other various schools who have huge numbers in boys tennis. They have actually JV boys tennis teams that would like to come and play against us at no cost to the district. Chad Waterhouse, who's the coach, is willing to volunteer his time. So I'm just asking to see if you'd be willing to support a club with boys tennis.
So it'd be a club for 2 years, correct?
Club for 2 years, yes. And if it's successful in 2 years, I'll come back and see.
Ask for money.
The district's willing to support it again, yes.
No, I think that's great. I think opportunities for kids is great.
So moved.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? Perfect.
Great.
Thank
I
you.
think I'm on the docket next.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So as you all know, we had an extremely successful first year of unified basketball. It was amazing. And if you got a chance to go to one of the games, you would have seen how incredible it was. Jess Merrill, our special ed teacher and coach of unified basketball, has done an amazing job. She got a grant from Special Olympics of Maine to support unified basketball, $3,500. And she's done the same for unified bocce. It's what we're hoping to bring to the high school this spring. She got a $1,500 grant for this spring to bring unified bocce to Gardner. So I'm here tonight to ask you if you'd be willing to support unified bocce. There aren't many teams in the state right now that have unified bocce, but it is growing. So some of the schools that we might play, and we know that we're going to play if this passes, Brunswick has a team and Booth Bay has a team. And maybe the MSAD11 school board will make a team and come play us.
We're walking and we're doing bocce. Walking and bocceing?
I gotta learn.
So the way it works is we had a couple of different ideas as far as how the courts would be created. The first one was 4x4 pressure treated post. It's actually a 16 by 60 court or 12 by 60 court. It's pretty big. And then the other idea is using PVC drain spouts essentially, so it's easily movable. We were going to have it down on the old field hockey field, but that's kind of difficult to access. So the plan now is to have it in the outfield of the baseball field when baseball isn't there, and that's when we'll have our bocce matches. And sometimes we'll have 3 courts, so we'll have enough to compete against each other. And again, if you want to form a team, it would be great to play. So that's our plan for unified bocce.
Bocce's a hoot.
It is a, yeah.
It's a hoot.
Yeah.
It's like
And we-
more of a hoot than,
Yeah, and we have
Cornhole.
organizations willing to donate the materials for the build, and Gabe and his crew is willing to put it together. So, and they've already donated, we've already gotten donations for the bocce sets as well. So there'll be minimal costs, some transportation expenses. But again, there aren't a whole lot of schools in this area to compete against with just yet. So the expenses will be relatively minimal.
I love that idea. All right. How does everyone feel about a bocce, unified bocce team?
Yes.
All right, so let's entertain a motion.
To have a.
To create a unified bocce team. Yeah. Motion and second right over here. Okay.
Who was the second? Jay?
Sure, yep. Okay. All those in favor? How could you not love a unified bocce?
We got unified volleyball coming in the fall, so.
Really? So ready. This is awesome. Thank you, Nate.
Yeah.
Oh, still up?
Champions Club.
Oh, I don't-
Unified Champions.
That's
No, it's
not
not
you.
me.
I assume too. He's like, what is this?
Okay, Unified Champions Club.
So this would be Lauren, actually. There is, in your packet, it was sent out in the original packet. There is a very detailed breakdown of exactly what the proposal includes. So Lauren, are you prepared?
So the Unified Champions Club is a club to start working on having these unified teams. And you have the proposal in front of you, so if you have any questions. you can ask them. Looking to have some more inclusive opportunities for our students.
So the students would meet after school, right? So it'd be like a club, they would meet once a week, right? So a lot of social inclusion.
Yes, a lot of institutional inclusion.
Love that.
And we've had a lot of interest through the unified bocce and the unified basketball. So the peer partners that would assist with that, we have a growing number of students that are interested.
Be like your bank for the next one. Yeah,
So we need a motion and a second.
I'll
for
take a
that.
motion on that.
Motion. Second by Molly. Questions or comments?
That's fine, that's
Because
fine.
he is the
All those in
bank.
favor of the Champions Club? All right, these are easy things.
Check, check.
I had
Having those softballs over here.
Right?
Sprinkling.
Yes.
Feel good.
I've had a little bug put in my ear, and that is,
Switch these around.
what about Title IX and tennis, girls' tennis? Do we?
We already have
Have
a
a girls'
girls'
tennis.
tennis.
We do, okay. I had a bug put in my
Yeah,
ear.
it's just
We
the
have a
boys'
girls, we already
tennis.
have a girls.
Let me just swat that bug.
Yeah, we're all set, but it
Perfect.
was a good question.
Yeah, just want to make sure. I'm ready. The moment we've all been
Here we
waiting
go,
for.
I
Here
know.
we
we're
go.
all
Do
looking
the
forward
others
to it.
first, it feels like, or should we do them later?
No. we
Doesn't
have it
matter.
here.
Yeah, it's
I
like
think
either
just
way, let's go.
Do it in respect
Do
to.
it, just, yeah,
Rip the Band-Aid.
yeah.
So, may I start?
Sure. You start, I'll go after you.
I know. I actually have written, it's a little lengthy, but I promise it'll be fast.
Don't read it too
written-
fast because we need to understand. it.
Okay, written something that I'd like to share. I've worked really hard on the tone. I don't want this to come across inappropriate or disrespectful or anything, so please, please know that that's the intent, and I've tried really hard to make sure, again, that it's respectful and understanding of the role of the board. But I left Tuesday's meeting feeling really frustrated and discouraged. And it just, it just sat with me all night. And then the next morning, I kind of had this moment of clarity, helping me to understand why I was feeling that way. And I really want to kind of just share what I realized. So Administrators are mandated to uphold school board policy. Your class size policy has consistently been front and center during budget deliberations. As I have done every year, including this year, the board has been provided an overview of current and projected enrollment, showing how that enrollment aligns with this policy. In this budget, I have proposed a reduction in one grade 1 position in direct accordance with this policy. Throughout our finance committee meetings, there has not been a single question regarding the reduction or a voiced concern about the impact that reduction will have on staff and students. To be clear, a reduction of a teacher at the elementary level because of a decline in enrollment or not impacts staff and students. It diminishes the pool of staff available for various responsibilities, resulting in teachers and ed techs being assigned additional duties. This translates to less time spent in direct instruction with students and/or reduced preparation time for instruction. At the middle school, the board's class size policy has also been used during the budget development process to determine whether a reduction in staff is warranted. 2 years ago, the middle school lost a PE teacher. Last year, they lost a librarian, a social studies teacher, and a world language teacher. And while you've added a social studies teacher back in this budget, the elimination of a school counselor position is slated to be reduced in exchange for a school social worker. All of these reductions have and continue to affect both staff and students at the middle school. Despite their impact, these changes were approved with minimal discussion. At the high school, staff reductions have been kept to a minimum due to various factors. During the budget season, the scheduling process poses significant challenge in accurately forecasting the required staff numbers. Decisions on staffing are typically based on student signups. However, after the school year begins, the add and drop period passes, we find that certain class sizes significantly undershoot the board's class size policy. Currently at the high school, the student population has decreased by 42 students since the 17-18 school year. During this period, there has been a reduction of a 0.5 science teacher and a 0.5 world language teacher, while the other departments have remained unchanged, except that when we had the ESSER funding, we did fund to support a math position and 2 special ed positions, and those were for 2 years only. This spring, the high school is engaged in the course selection process for next year as per usual practice. During that process, an inequity across the district was observed. Angela shared this information with you Tuesday night, demonstrating that on average, class sizes at the high school are smaller compared to those at the elementary and the middle schools. Additionally, this review shed light on the workload and preparation time. About a year ago, a committee comprising of representatives from elementary, middle, and high school, along with the Teachers Association, dedicated substantial time to discuss preparation time. Although not perfect, a policy was endorsed by the committee and subsequently approved by the school board. Yet, as Angela highlighted in her presentation on Tuesday, despite the committee's efforts, there remains a significant disparity in available time for staff. This inconsistency in adhering to school board policy also served as a rationale behind the proposed reductions at the high school. Repeatedly, we have acknowledged that our school district does lack substantial resources, which limits our abilities and staff abilities to provide optimal support for both staff and students. As a board, you've just done an admirable job balancing all of the needs that we have with fiscal constraints. In this budget, despite the projected increase, you've shown trust in the rationale for new proposed positions and for the need to shift into this budget the positions previously funded through ESSER funds. For that, we are all grateful. The ongoing debate regarding the inclusion of the high school English and science positions in the budget has led to a morale issue at the high school. I take full responsibility for the recommendations presented in this budget. I made these recommendations because I believed it was and continues to be the school board's expectation for me to uphold the policies you have adopted. This is why the class size policy has been consistently a focal point in our budget deliberations. I deeply respect the authority of the board in setting the budget. My request is that Should you choose to reinstate positions in the budget, you take the opportunity to review your own policies before developing next year's budget. It's unjust to expect certain staff members to adhere to policies while exempting others. If these policies are viewed as detrimental to staff and students at the high school, it's crucial to examine how they impact elementary and middle schools as well, and to consider adjustments to staffing levels to ensure consistency and fairness across all levels. Enforcing the policies you adopt and advocating for staff and students are essential parts of my job. However, I feel this budget process has impeded my ability to fulfill either of these responsibilities, which I view as unfair. If the board does not support its policies as they are written, I absolutely respect that that is your right to do that. However, I respectfully request that you make that clear to me so I'm not in a position where I make these challenging recommendations that adversely affect the morale of all staff and administrators. So that's a tough way to start, but I really feel I just had to share that.
Thank you. And we also, just to piggyback that on what you said, we don't get to choose which policies we follow and which ones we don't. They're in place for a reason. So we have policies and we have to do that. I also wrote something because I can ramble if I don't, and I don't want to do that. And as you know, I voted against the budget the other night. But I want to ask, this is a question that I want to ask everyone. I'd just like to see a show of hands. I don't expect you to know, and if you do, I'm glad. How many of you know what the ED 279 is? It's the way we get to make our budget. We don't just sit down and say, what will we do? There's a box and a formula that we have to live inside. And when we don't get money. And when we don't get money and we still continue, the taxpayers get to pay. And that's what makes property taxes go up. So with that, I'll just read this. I think what is most difficult is how all of these moving parts fit together. We as a board spend at least one finance meeting, maybe two, going over the ED 279 before we tackle the budget. We ask our superintendent with her staff to craft a budget that they believe reflects the needs and takes the costs and affordability into consideration. This is not an afternoon meeting. This is a weeks-long project that they embark upon year over year. The administrators work in the buildings with their staff every day. They have relationships with their staff, they evaluate their staff, and they have the good and the hard conversations with their staffs. The job of cutting positions is not an easy one, and it's a thankless one. By the time it comes to us, they have labored over these numbers and courses of study. I am not intimating that they are perfect, but I am saying that they are the people that are in the buildings. These are the ones that are in the conversations with the department heads, with the teachers, with all of their staff. If they say it's a workable solution, then it's a workable solution. Not suggesting that we cannot ask questions, but I am suggesting that we didn't perhaps ask a lot of questions. That is perhaps what's missing. We all know that we don't want to see these cuts. These people are our neighbors and our community members. However, the facts are that we have a declining enrollment, and as that happens, we must respond. Ours is a fluctuating business. I'm hopeful that in the future, we will increase again in our enrollment, and that perhaps we can bring our minds together and our communities together to work on ways to consolidate and provide the much needed and desired services that sometimes tight budgets make difficult and impossible. Let us come together and ask the questions where they're needed, and please be grateful for the hard work that our superintendent and her staff have done. Remember back to the ED 279, the conversations that we've had and how it works. And that's what brings us to this place. Lower enrollment means less resources from the state, which means fewer employees, which means more resources required by taxpayers. So it's not the formula that we wish for, but it's the one that we have. And I will be supporting the budget as it is right now.
Okay, thank you. So
I'm done.
the budget,
Yeah.
then that was sent to you from the finance committee, is in front of you. Andrea has provided that. So what it includes, or the positions that are in the budget, it's the middle school social studies position that was reinstated, and it was voted by the finance committee not to include the English position and not to include the 1.5 science position. So they're not included in here. So what you see is a budget increase of 7.52%. That represents a $2.263 million increase. How that impacts taxpayers is an 8.93% increase. So for Gardner, that's an 8.08% increase. Pittston is a 9.02. Randolph is 4.87. And West Gardner is 11.1. Now that includes as well an increase in the special education reserve. We talked about that, right? And that we have all of these unfilled positions in special ed. And so, however, we need to keep those positions in. If we're able to fill them, we need to have them available to work with our students. So it was decided that because of these unfilled positions, they've generated more carry forward. So we're going to use more of that carry forward to help offset the impact in the budget. So the last time finance had looked at it, it was 500,000. Based on the unfilled positions, we increased it to 700,000. That is not a annual amount that we're going to be able to include. It's not sustainable. But for the time being, felt that we could make that work. So 8.93% to the taxpayers is that represents a $1,095,821 increase to taxpayers. So Andrea is, of course, here. She can talk about all of this and the finances. You also have the impact on property taxes. What would it cost if your house were valued at 200,000, at 300,000, or at 400,000? So if I'm going to pick the 400,000 just because of the valuations that are increasing. So for the city of Gardner, if your house is valued at 400,000, that's an increase of $383.93, which is almost 1 mil. It's 0.96 mil. So this, of course, does not include any increase by the city, nor does it include any increase by the county. In Pittston, that $400,000 house, their tax would increase $276.87 or 0.69 mil. Town of Randolph, that represents $233.78 or 0.58 mil. And for the town of West Gardner is $334.83, which is a 0.84 mil increase. That's where you are right now with the budget.
And to be clear, that's pretty close to last year, right? Somebody note the other night, it was like 8.9 last year or something. Was it? Okay.
Yes, I left that in my office.
No worries.
12.97.
Okay, so it's lower than it was last year.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
The year before was 6%.
That's okay, thank you.
Molly.
I took notes. I don't have anything written as well as either of you. But I was in attendance and at this week's earlier meeting, and I've listened to, if I haven't been able to attend, I'm not on finance committee, but at Tuesday's meeting, the conversation shifted very quickly, I felt, and perhaps it needed to. It was necessary to get something accomplished. It was stated in that meeting that we wish to be below a 10%, and I understood it that by maintaining or retaining one of the, whether it's science or English department positions, we would still accomplish that 10% or underneath the 10% by maintaining a position. I had been in support of keeping an English position, mostly because that is what I'd been hearing so much about at that time. I changed my mind only when, excuse me, Angela very candidly recommended we consider science instead. And I think, I don't know the specific policies that we may or may not be suggesting that we not follow by keeping that position. But I do know that we built a brand new outdoor science classroom this year, and we advertised that on network television. I know that we're advertising for a position to use that classroom, and that is wonderful, but it doesn't sit well with me to promote science and eliminate a position. I don't think that we can necessarily retain the 1.5 that we were considering, but I would propose the 1 in lieu of, we were considering 1 English. I was hoping 1 science. And I in no way mean to insult any of your hard work, or I know you've put in a lot more effort. It is, you're much more informed. You've done this many, many years. This is my first year, and I don't have much experience with this at all. But I've consistently heard that this is our budget and our decision to make. So I don't want to not follow our policies, but I want to listen to our students and our staff. And I don't know that 1 position, whatever it may be, would change our budget or alter it that much in a negative or have a negative consequence. We would still be under a 10% increase. And so that's why I don't support the budget that was proposed on.
May I ask, Andrea? Would you stand up, please? We can't see you when you sit down. Would you please share with the board that if they add back in a full-time science position, what does that do
I need to calculate it behind me. I don't have it right in front of me, but I can add that back in and figure out where we were. I don't know that 10% was the goal. I think it was palatable, single digits. I'm the one who said it. So I don't think it was the finance committee's goal that we were below.
We never heard a direct goal.
No, I just heard it stated in that meeting that we were under 10% and we were happy with that.
You know, I think I expressed my concern that last year we passed along a $1.4 million increase. And that this year we were looking at another increase over $1 million. I think I also shared with the committee that over the past 20-something years that our average increase was about $255,000. And that before last year, the increase was $600,000, and there, before that, it was substantially less. What I said is that passing along an increase of a mill is not sustainable. These towns cannot sustain to pass along, in my opinion, that sort of increase, especially when we're looking at, if we're looking at West Gardner, whose total mill rate is 10, adding an additional 1 mill to their rate every year is, difficult. So those were my feelings, and I don't want to, that's something that I said, that I found it to be more palatable for us to be at least under 10. I don't think that was the finance committee's recommendation. So I own that.
Did you say that last time the budget passed by only 14 votes?
Not last time, but in my tenure here, I've been here 30 years, so I know, I was 6 when I started.
Yeah.
So yes, there have been very close budget years, and there have been years that it's passed well. So it depends what year you're talking about.
It was even during my tenure here, and I haven't been here as long as Andrea, but it has been in the last 14 years that was the case. Now, last year, we were very concerned sending out such an increase, and the budget did pass overwhelmingly. Molly, after the last meeting, after finance, we were talking a bit about positions and trying to visualize all the positions. So just so you know, so in math, we currently have 6 and we're proposing 6. In English, there are 7. If there's a reduction in English, that brings you to 6. In social studies, there's 6 and there's no recommendation there, so that would stay at 6. There's currently 7 in science. If you do 1.5, that brings you, did I say 6? There's 7, yeah. That brings you to 5.5. So it brings you lower than the others. We're at 4.5 in world language. We're at 2 in our financial literacy and career. We have 1 in music, 2 in art and video, 2 in PE, 1 in the learning lab, 1 in adult ed, and 1 in health. So,
I
you
don't
know,
mean to correct you, but we're at 7.5 in science currently. We dropped to 6 with the proposed 1.5.
correct, that's right, that's right. Yep, thank you.
You know, and since Becky mentioned the ED 279, the ED 279, as she stated, is our funding formula, and I glanced at it. They have a student-staff ratio. And I think that based on the ratio that they've set, 16:1, I think it would drop our regular ed teachers at the high school to 36. And Pat will tell you that we currently have more than that. And when you are above their recommended funding level, there are adjustments in the formula that do more harm than good. Basically, the multiplication factor, instead of being 1, it falls below a ratio of 1, and you only get a percentage of. So, I mean, we've talked about this during the ED 279. So having significantly more staff members based on our student numbers is detrimental to our funding.
Yes, I'm just looking at, you always give us the numbers every month, so thank you. So I think that being said, I appreciate what you just said too, Pat. But if I look at just like month over month change, right, in the high school, it's down 6 students. And from last year, it's down a total of 7. So I appreciate the data aggregately. That just doesn't also justify for me removing 2 teachers when it's 7 students. And I also appreciate what you said about elementary. And actually see that they're sustaining, obviously, and increasing in elementary. So I think we should look at that, but I'm with Molly and not necessarily supporting this budget the way it is for those reasons, so.
Yes, Molly.
I don't know if I understood the documents correctly or not, but based on the projected numbers for next year, we were losing almost 29 students in the middle school, but 2 students in the high school.
Yeah, what's difficult it's easier to forecast at the middle school and the elementary schools than it is at the high school. And the reason for that is that we have students who come here on a tuition basis from RSU 12. So we don't really know. It's just a projection. At the middle school, we do know that we have a class, a grade 5 that will be coming in that is around, I don't have the number in front of me, around 125.
Yep.
And the current 6th grade is also around 125. And so they're current grade 7 is really high. That's moving into their eighth grade. So that's why there's such a drop, because they're bringing in such a low, small class. And as I mentioned in finance, there's another blip, I think it's grade 4, that is a little bit higher, it's around 150.
Right.
After that, the number of students in our class sizes get smaller and smaller. I think the smallest right now is around 118.
Yep.
And class sizes used to be around 170. 180 when I arrived, and we're not seeing those anymore. And I appreciate, what you guys are saying. I totally respect that. I am just saying that over a course of 5-6 year period, there hasn't been a reduction to correspond with that 40 student reduction. So
Historically, you're saying?
correct, that
okay.
we only reduced a
Mhm.
half of science and a half of world language
Mhm.
versus the other major or bigger reductions in elementary and in middle school.
Which is the equity piece that Angela was talking about. Yes, Joanne.
Yeah, but we do the budget every year, correct?
Yep.
So that if we see changes that would indicate a continuing drop, I think at that point in time would be a good time to start talking about this is where we need to cut. Just because we can see that it's coming down the pike. I think to cut right now, and I think I'm in agreement with Molly, is that we're cutting early and we don't even know if we're gonna be able to fill a lot of these positions. And now I'm really glad that you have lots of interviews coming up to fulfill those positions that are open. But I think to start cutting them in advance of an actual major drop in enrollment would be a mistake when we can take a look at that again next year. And the only other thing that I would say about the English is that that is a requirement over 4 years as opposed to social studies and science and math, which are only required for 3 years. So I'm a little bit hesitant to say that, and I'm not saying I think all of these positions are necessary. I would like to fund both if we could get under 10%. I don't know where else in the budget we could make any cuts. We don't really get line items for each of these areas so that we can take a look and just question. What about this? What about that?
Those have been provided. They're on our website. They're available for anyone who looks, and she has provided that.
They are in a budget folder for you to view. You have
it.
You probably have a 300-page budget that you can see.
I've been looking through the stuff that was shared with me and I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it's in one of the folders from the previous meetings. I haven't provided it lately, but I think there are 2 versions. One when we originally presented the budget, and then another where I think the last finance, if not before, I provided an updated copy.
Okay, so I didn't get it in November. Well, it started in November. So I did not see the actual line by line by line in each section to see for myself, if there was something else.
It's available. I'd be happy to send it to you.
I would love it. Thank you.
And that's what we do. We go line by line. I meet with all of the administrators and we go line by line. And we do that work. So, your question about whether there is more, we don't know where there is more. The majority of the budget is made up of staff and benefits. And there are no other places that we can think of. We're trying to be creative and thinking about federal funds. Can we shift here and shift there? And we're just not finding those pieces, those substantial amounts to help cover the cost.
We have been creative for a number of years and we've run out of places to be creative. We've cut things and we're down to people.
I just have one other question. I noticed some TBDs like for Title I. Are these funds that we're anticipating getting?
So part of our, I shouldn't say budget, there are some programs that are funded federally, Title I, Title II, IDEA, which is special ed, and Title V. We have yet to receive our federal allocations for those grants. We didn't know whether or not we were going to have to, and it's basically personnel. So it's staff. We didn't know because of budget cuts, whether we'd be forced to move some of those staff members into our regular budget. At this point, we still don't know what we're getting for funding. Today was the first time that we got an inclination. We got an email that said that they expect the titles to be reduced. So Angela and I are still trying to figure out what that means. And unfortunately, now we're at a point where you're setting the budget. And
So we're stuck with what we got.
There's no time.
This is the latest this is the latest that the federal allocations have been set. And it's due to the federal government postponing decisions on their budget. So the Department of Education at the federal level can't set their allocations until the budget's passed. Then they go through that process, then it goes to the state. Today, we were notified Title I will be reduced at least 2.5%. That is entirely staffing for interventions based on federal guidelines on how it's allowed to be used. And we have to figure out how we're gonna manage that. We still don't have Title V and Title II. And we know in 2 to 3 years, Title V will expire for this district because we no longer qualify as rural as determined by new updated rules. So those are all funds that all have rules to follow, that all include staff that are not in your local budget, but are filling vital intervention positions in your system. And we have no control.
It's to be determined.
Right, okay. Now that staffing that you're talking about that is allocated for Title I, what kinds of positions are we talking about? What would be?
Intervention, literacy and math intervention positions. Teachers and ed techs who provide math and literacy support to the students struggling the most who are not identified as special education in the area of math or literacy. And that is funded at the elementary level across 3 of our 4 buildings. One building does not qualify for Title I, and that building is therefore funded 1 person locally and 1 person through Title V. And by law, we have to ensure that building is funded in a comparable status to all other Title I buildings, or we lose Title I funding.
And these are the same ed techs and literacy coaches that we've
Not
been.
coaches.
Okay, so the ed techs that we are trying to fulfill, for which we have that $700,000 in
No.
contingency?
No,
Okay,
that's a totally different, this has nothing to do with your local budget. It's a supplemental federal budget that pays for the staff.
Same thing with IDEA, which is your federal special ed program. It funds, I believe, 17 of our special ed techs.
It's a way for us to access and utilize federal dollars responsibly and keep it out of your local budget line. So that we're providing the services for struggling learners as responsibly as we can. Other districts are able to use some of those funds for program materials, administrative duties, salaries for some people like me who do all the federal reports. We do not use those dollars at all for any of those purposes. We use them directly to support students. That's the way we've opted to ensure the dollars touch the students most.
so that's not included in the $6 million that
It
is
has nothing to
listed.
do with the paperwork you've been going through for 2 months. And that's why we are also, as Andrea suggested, like, there is an additional layer of budgets that we still have to monitor and manage and make sure those staff are covered. And it's not even part of your local budget, and we can't even implicate your local budget because they're so late in getting them to us this year.
Jack, then Jeff, then Linda.
I think most of us are like still feeling pretty like sick to our stomach about having to shrink the number of teachers that we have. But I feel like over a number of weeks, we've been shown very plain data and very plain math that what we have is unsustainable and that what we have is a need to be lean in personnel in order to meet our obligations with our policy and in order to comport with the expectations of our like staffing levels in comparison to other schools. I feel like we need to support and go with the administrators and the time and expertise and effort that they've put into making this budget that we don't love because of how much it hurts. But also like, I don't think we're going to be doing ourselves or our students any favors in the long term if we don't continue to be responsive to these numbers and take very seriously our responsibility as the board to like hold tight to the purse strings because we're all gonna pay for it. And I feel really kind of gross saying that I don't want to put teaching positions back into the budget because I think it will do more harm than it would help. I feel like we need to trust and support the experts and move this forward and hope that our voters will vote for it.
Jeff?
Yes, thank you. I will be supporting the budget that the Finance Committee presented. You know, in a perfect world, we wouldn't need any money. It would just be wonderful and we'd be going along. But you don't live in a perfect world. You have to make hard decisions. How do you sleep at night?
He doesn't sleep much. Usually send emails to other people. Should have that too, so.
I mean, you know, the student population is trending downward. We can see that. So we have to adjust accordingly. And, you know, the CPI came out today, the inflation rate isn't going away. It's still creeping up again. Everyone that is in this room lives with all the expenses of life. All the people we represent through all these communities, they see the increased cost of just being alive. We have to toe the line here as well. And be uncomfortable, but we have to make hard decisions. I think we've done as good a job as you possibly could hope for. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Jeff. Linda?
I feel like I'm being redundant now, but we saw the data that Angela presented, and I'm a former teacher. I understand all that the teachers feel, but if you look at the high school student teacher ratio, it is lower than elementary school and it is lower than middle school. And with declining enrollment, as difficult as it is, I think it's appropriate that they unfortunately lose some positions. We would like them not to. But if you look at data, and I'm really a data person, it's supported by data. And I know I'm here for the benefit of the students, but my town missed a reevaluation of their property. It was several years late. And so when it was reevaluated, it was a huge increase. And I don't know how supportive they're going to be of a big budget increase. And I'm looking at the data for this teacher-student ratio in high school, and I think it's fair that they lose a student. I'm a teacher. And I think, my other point, the administrator stood up and said, we don't like this, but we can make it work. That was said about the social studies position. We have a plan, we can make this work. The Lauren said, we can make this work in English. Science, I think the statement was, we can make it work, but we have to figure out labs. And I know I'm new on the board, but I watched the last three finance committees, so I was paying attention as best I could. So I think that, again, we need to trust the administrators that they know what they're talking about. And we need to have some equity.
Yes, Molly.
They had, there's a first one on there.
I'm sorry, you know, I have this problem,
I just wanted to say quickly, well, I agree with everything that's been said so far about the tough decisions in the budget, and I just wanted to say why I originally wanted it to come to this table. We've been talking about it at finance. And it really was a lot of what Angela said that that helped me with that really difficult decision, because you know, inherently and instinctively, like, no, I want to protect the positions, but Angela pointed out that not approving a budget is so, it just keeps everybody in a limbo that is uncomfortable, and nobody can work in that kind of environment, and that's not good for our children either. So it's, you know, like rip the Band-Aid off and then everybody can heal, right? I don't know, that was, and my thinking was bring it here now and try and pass it through, because it's not fair to offer all the work that's been done on it already. It just seems, yeah.
Thank you. Joanne?
I just want to say that the what teachers have to do today in the classroom is a heck of a lot different than what teachers had to do in the classroom 10 years ago and 5 years ago. Our kids are extremely needy. And we have teachers that are working more like social workers, trying to get the curriculum across in a way that is hopeful for these kids that are dealing with issues. And I think that, you know, I've only been out of teaching for 5 years. And through the pandemic, it has really shaken the relationships of students to teachers. We have a harder time getting students into the classroom. And that is the reason why I would vote against this budget, because I think those relationships with those teachers and those electives that help kids see hope for the future and explore their strengths so that they can see where they can go in life and build competency is so important. I don't think the numbers just by themselves speak to the issue that the teachers are having to deal with, not to mention the enormous amount of paperwork that they have to do as well and trying to teach in the classroom. The time that they actually get to teach is reduced over the years. And so I don't think it's in the best interest of our student population as a whole, the whole 570 students in the high school to start cutting teachers for that reason. I understand you said that we're getting a new cohort of pre-K and kindergarten students that are even more needy. I think we have to start looking at other areas if we can, to see if we can retain these teachers, because they are the lifeline. If we don't have them, we're gonna lose more students.
Can I ask one question? And I'm sorry, I am gonna put you on the spot here. So I hear what you're saying. Are you saying that you're recommending that we add back into the budget the school counselor that no one else has also talked about reducing?
I think that we need counselors as well, but right now, if the teachers are actually doing some of that work because they have the connections in the classroom, getting an appointment with a counselor outside of class might be more difficult than having a trusted teacher that can help guide them through whatever obstacles that they're dealing with, how to be successful. I don't think we do enough in terms of helping our students take ownership of their own education. I think that we really have to start to help kids have a sense of agency about their own education. And right now, I think a lot of kids feel very aimless and sort of hopeless, and they just don't know where to go, and that's part of the reason why they have so much anxiety.
I think, Becky, everyone has pretty much made their decision in their mind. I would recommend that you open the floor for a motion. Molly had it. Oh, sorry. Andrea, did you get a number?
Do you want me to?
Oh, yes, please.
Sorry. And the directive is to add,
The
One
science.
science.
One science.
Can I say something while we wait? That's
Yes.
not having to do directly to do with this budget. Can we make a note for ourselves as a board next year to think about and have a conversation of how can we support robust electives available in our schedule, given that we've had so much discussion about how our staffing constraints will also constrain that. I wonder if there's a way that we as board can support having robust and varied electives in our.
That's a curriculum and right,
Yeah.
both of them have left,
Yes.
stepped out for a moment, Lauren and Angela, they would be the ones, but you could do that and.
But I can
This
make
is
a note.
definitely like a
And we also,
thing for
and
another
I really
day.
do think that you need to have a conversation about revisiting your policies.
I do too. We do have, we have these policies and Pat's right, there are things that have been eliminated from this year's budget that we didn't even ask about, that we didn't even, how many years ago was it that we eliminated elementary guidance? And we
Last
promised
year.
that
And
we
we're
would.
still fighting
And we-
that struggle.
Right, and we said we would look at that again, but again, there aren't, just like there's not special ed teachers to put in those positions. A guidance counselor position is a specific thing, so if we can't find people to fill those positions, then they remain unfilled.
So I have a suggestion, not if it's easier or harder, Pat, to do that. If we look at the lens of the budget next year through the policies, is there a way to align those? There's some way to try to.
That's what I'm trying to do in this
Yeah,
budget, so I'm not
okay.
sure, I mean, that is always at the forefront,
Yeah.
that's my directive
Okay,
from the board is to use policy to make these decisions.
okay.
So if, whatever you decide, I totally respect it. But if you make changes, then you're veering away from your
Yeah,
policy.
that's fair.
And so you need to look at your policies, and if you want to adjust those class sizes, if you want to do something with your prep time, because you have elementary prep time, they get 215 minutes a week versus high school teachers that get 400 minutes a week. It's just not the same.
Now pause,
and
just
it
stop there for a
demands-
minute and say that again very slowly.
Okay,
Because I want everyone to think about that. Who gets what? Because we're talking about equity, so. Hang on. I want Pat to say it again, and I want us to pause and think on that. Elementary teachers get,
about 215 minutes a week,
and high school teachers get,
about 400 minutes a week.
we're talking about equity.
They're different jobs.
Things, different jobs, but
absolutely.
elementary school teachers have to prepare for every single class. They teach every single subject, so again, one of the things we talked about is that all of the topics matter, and I have absolute regard and respect for every single teacher. High school teachers, I'm not disregarding you, I know it's hard work. But I think we as a board have to look at this through an equitable lens and realize what the morale might look like for the staff that does not get the same amount and may believe they need it or deserve it. Is that fair?
It just always feels like we're moving the mark though when we make those statements.
I
That's
know.
unfair. So I just don't agree with that.
Well, I think we're also just trying to
get all these different points apart.
Yeah.
Because they are very different things.
Yes, they
If
are.
you have elementary schools, parents, generally speaking, are able to help their children with elementary topics. Whereas when you get into high school, how many of the parents have taken calculus or physics or geometry 2? And we're trying to get them ready.
I know.
So it's.
And I hear you, but you have a policy and we're just trying to enforce your policy. And your policy doesn't differentiate those things across the district. That's all that I'm saying. And I certainly in no way want to come across as though I don't respect, support, appreciate. I'm a former high school teacher. I understand the difference. And I've been in the elementary. I know what our elementary teachers and our middle school teachers are doing. And I respect all of them tremendously. I don't want it to come across that way. I am just saying whatever budget you build, you need to make sure that you're following your policy. And if the policies aren't appropriate and you're not comfortable with them, I am just saying to help guide us, we need a policy that you are supportive of, because this puts us in a really difficult position where I am saying, right, these positions need to be cut. It's creating a morale issue. When I am just trying to do we are trying to do what we believe is the direction that the board has given us, so.
Jeff and then Molly.
I would like to make a motion that we accept the budget as proposed by the finance committee.
Second. Can we do that now? I will second it.
Linda seconded it. Molly, this is time for discussion.
I wanted to move to add the policies to our next policy committee meeting. The policies you're referring to, because I don't know what policies they are specifically, and we have so many, I would like to know this of what I should do.
Sure, I don't know if we can do it on the next, it may have to wait till fall because of some of the other demands and the timeliness of some of those, but absolutely. And your two policies are your class size policy, which you can find, and the other is your prep time policy.
It's IIB and GCMA.
IIB.
IIB, so it's in section I. The other one is in section G, GCMA.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I will do a roll call. Right, so for Linda Caputo, you first. Do you say?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you want those figures before people vote, or do you want to?
If you have them, yes.
So to add. So to add that position back in, it would increase the amount to locals to 9.51%, which would be a mill rate of increase to the city of Gardner rather of 1.03 mils. To Pittston, it would be 0.74 mils. To Randolph, it would be 0.65 mils, and 0.88 to West Gardner. I was also asked as an aside to do 1.5, sorry, take that back.
So it's for one
0.5.
position.
One, to
Right.
restore one.
And if it's only 0.5?
I didn't do that, I did 1.5, sorry, misunderstood. Okay. Would you like a 0.5?
I don't know what the wish. Okay,
We're in go.
not yet.
Okay.
Right, so okay for me to do a roll call? Right.
Is my response I favor or I don't?
He is, the motion on the floor is to accept the budget as put forth by the finance committee.
I accept the budget.
Okay, Megan? Yay or nay?
Yay.
Becky?
Yay.
Sean?
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yes.
Joanne,
No.
Jack,
Yes.
Diane,
No.
Molly,
No.
Alyssa,
No.
Tony.
No.
Okay, that does not pass. So the total comes to those in support, 4,508 points versus 5,474. There. Is there another motion?
I can make a motion to accept or add in one science position to this budget.
Second.
Need a motion in a second? Further conversation?
I love it. Can we do that?
All those in favor?
Well, I need to do roll call because I don't
Yeah.
suspect everyone is going to vote, so I need to have the numbers.
I'm sorry, all those in favor answer when your name is called. We have a motion and a second. So people just need to say yes or no when you call their name.
Correct, yes. Okay, so the proposal now is to add a science position. So if you're in support of that, please say yay. If you are not in support, please say nay. Linda?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Sean?
No.
Jeff?
No.
Joanne?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Molly? Yes. Alyssa?
No.
Tony?
Yes.
All right, that passes 6,623 votes to 3,359 votes. So you have a budget.
Andrew, do you mind restating what you calculated with that?
So the position that I added was,
On science, right?
yep, one science.
Okay.
So I get it written on. 9.51% overall increase. The increase to Gardner, I'm sorry, is 1.03. The increase to Pittston is 0.74. The increase to the mill rate for Randolph is 0.65, and the mill increase to West Gardner is 0.88.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. Next is food service.
I'd like to entertain a motion to pass the food service, to bring the food service budget.
So moved.
Second by Joanne. Questions or comments about the food budget? All those in favor?
It's unanimous.
And finally, adult ed.
So moved.
Second. Joanne? Questions or comments about the adult ed budget? All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda is the consideration to hire WRBC, an architect and engineering firm, to access all 6 of our buildings for the purpose of submitting a new construction application to the DOE.
And I'm sorry, that's supposed to say to assess, not access.
I thought assess, but
My
I read.
apologies, I didn't catch that.
I read
didn't catch it.
access.
Oh,
Yeah.
it says access and I thought.
Yeah, it's
It
to
would allow that,
assess.
yeah, but-
Yeah, sorry, it's to
Yeah.
assess.
What's the cost of that?
We don't yet know the cost.
Okay.
What the process is that you start with, doing what's called RFQ, just to get qualifications. And once we identify who we want based upon qualifications, and then we, begin entertaining what the cost is gonna be. I know it seems a little weird, but that's the process from the Department of Ed.
So a motion to. So moved. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Alrighty, questions or comments? All those in favor? Excellent. Thank you. And secondly, a consideration to hire EMC, a performance-based contracting service, to conduct a district-wide facilities analysis for the purpose of energy reduction. So moved. Second. Second by Jack. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Alrighty. Yeah.
Discuss.
Your old business. Yep. We see it now.
So old business, I just wanted to follow up that, oh gosh, I don't remember, it must have been, was it March? Maybe, I think it was March, I don't remember. The board approved that Becky and I write to the Department of Education and request that they allow our school district to extend some early release days, totaling 5 hours in order to make up a snow day. And that was approved. So as of right now, the last student day is June 11th. Don't make that kind of mistake. June 11th, and for staff, it will be June 12th. I will tell you, I was in a meeting today and in a school district in Maine, and right now they're looking at the last week of June getting out. Yeah, so June 11th is really early.
You'll already
So
be
that's
gone.
awesome,
People already be gone.
right? Yeah,
Good. You'll be out.
so I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you.
I would like to request that I move my report to the next meeting, just because of time. I've been here a while.
I second that.
Okay, and I will try to move through mine fairly quickly. So 1, school resource officer position, I wanted to fill you in on that. As you know, I've told you that we currently do not have a school resource officer in our buildings on a regular basis. We have Officer McMaster, who, when he's working on the day shift, if he isn't involved in something else, he spends time at the school, which we really appreciate. But we would really like to have someone there full-time. It makes a difference. We do see it in student behaviors when we don't have someone there full-time. So I reached out to your board leadership and asked them for permission to contact the Kennebec Sheriff's Department to find out whether they would have interest in providing coverage. They indicated to me a degree of interest, but it has to go through the commissioners. So I haven't heard back, but it is my understanding that there's a general interest. So there's a possibility. If that happens, it's a contracted service. And it will cost slightly more than what you have in your budget, but it's really not that much more. It's pretty comparable. But they guarantee that because it's a contract, that you will always have someone here in the district. So if the school resource officer who's assigned here is out sick or something else, they will send a different deputy.
That's
So,
good.
okay, so I will keep you posted. Any opposition to that approach?
No, it's a great idea. No, I think it's a great idea. Will they have the same sort of training that our resource officers have?
I'm certain they will have to go through the same training,
The
yes.
resource training.
Yes, so there's
Okay.
resource
That's good.
training. Unfortunately, I think it's only held once a year in June and it's held in Rhode Island. It's a week-long training.
Yes.
That's the closest, yeah.
My home state. They get more if they had it in like, I don't know, the Virgin Islands. or
Yeah.
Someplace fun like that.
They have it in
Everybody
various
would wanna
places
do it.
around the country. That one
Yeah.
is the closest to
Yeah.
us.
Okay.
I want to give you an update on ESSER. And so ESSER, those are COVID dollars. So if you recall back when we entered COVID, the federal government gave us different grants, right? They gave us what was called CARES or ESSER 1, then we had ESSER 2, then we had ESSER 3. ESSER 3 is the last one. So most recently, some of you who've had conversations with us, we've been talking about projects that we're working on. There is a report called the performance report that is due tomorrow. We submitted it this afternoon.
Woo.
We're told that it's gonna take 120 to 140 hours to complete this report, and they weren't kidding. And so it took hours from Angela, from Andrea and myself, but that is, it's now been submitted. So I wanted to make sure that you are all aware that as a result of us receiving those funds, we still are obligated to make sure that we follow CDC guidance and those guidelines being put forth. And we continue to do so. CDC has changed their guidance, so we don't have to require people to quarantine like they did in the past. Now we just treat it like the flu. But as a result of those funds, that is something that we need to do. The funds that we have and that are left are being used for reducing class sizes strategically, and through the budget conversation, we talked about how we had some money that we had used from ESSER to help reduce class sizes, so we did that. Maintaining some social worker services, supporting interventions and instruction, and ensuring our buildings continue to support healthy communities. We've replaced windows, we've repaired damage, we've replaced heat pumps, we've replaced roofs, we've hired staff, we've hired social workers and coaches, and we've purchased supplies and curriculum materials. So we've actually done a great deal. At this point, we expect that with ESSER 3, we've already spent ESSER 1, ESSER 2, those monies are done. With ESSER 3, we received 3.6 million. Last year, or in 21-22, we spent 978,000 of those dollars. In 22-23, which is the performance report that we just had to complete for that year, we used $2,046,671.59. The remaining funds have to be spent by September 30th. So we will be looking to see whether we have any projects that actually came in lower than what we had originally estimated and anticipated. And you all know Andrea enough to know that she's not gonna leave a dime on the table, right? She's gonna make sure that we're spending every single penny that we are. So once we get the budget behind us, and we get some other reports that we have due done, we're gonna sit back down and take a really long, hard look at what we have left and see how we can utilize that money to everyone's best benefit, so.
Would
Yes.
those kinds of funds be available for, say, like a summer enrichment program?
We have tried to offer a summer enrichment program, and we have not been able to staff it.
However, we do have a partnership with the Boys and Girls
Yes.
Club, and for last summer, we used reallocated Title I funds from the state. They weren't originally our funds. But our American Rescue, last year was Title I funds. And this year we've applied for another summer grant in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club using remaining American Rescue Plan funds, not ours, the state's, for summer services. What we found last year was a significant percentage of students who participated throughout the summer with the Boys and Girls Club in their specialized programming, which is not, it is amazing. And it has a lot of activities, but it also has instruction built into it. Those students, their summer loss between spring assessment and fall assessment window was minimized, or they actually gained a certain percentage of students. When we analyzed all that, resubmitted it, so we're hoping because we made a difference, we will get that and have summer funding, summer programming again, where staff is available. That is our biggest challenge. And some of our staff do work there.
Yeah, we have a number actually throughout the school year as well. They work there in the afternoon, providing tutoring services, primarily to our middle school students, so. So was there anything else, Angela, under the ESSER 3 that I didn't share that I need to?
You might have said it, but some of those funds are not just like funds for projects. It's money Andrea has already set aside for the summer pay for people who are already employed under those funds. They don't get reported in the performance report. That summer pay, because that hasn't happened yet, it's, I don't know, there's a term for accrued or something.
Yes.
Set aside, but it doesn't get reported here, so it looks like we have more money than we actually do, because once you then take those dollars that she has another spreadsheet for us that shows us how much we'll spend down. Really isn't a lot. We did a pretty good job managing the funds and making sure, but a few things came up under our expectations, so there's a little bit of small pocket of money that we can try to use to handle the expenses that might come, so they don't show up in the local budget.
And usually those reports end up being public too, the federal.
Oh, they always, this is the website, it's live and
Yeah,
public now.
so you
It's
can go
always
look at
on
it.
our website.
Yeah, those performance and financials are always out there. Yeah. Thank you for doing that, by the way. It's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
I know a lot about it, yeah.
was, but we couldn't have accomplished it if the three of us didn't work together as a team. It was-
Excellent.
Social media, class action litigation, if you remember, as a board, you voted to join a class action, regarding social media. Just wanted you to know that we're working on that, and in addition, there is a survey with tons of information, that has to be provided. So I am currently working on that. That is my next large project. It is due next Friday. So that's the next one, but I wanted you to know that it's moving forward. In addition, you also were part of the opioid class action litigation. And I received an email last month, just making sure that you are aware that as a result of the class action, we were able to collect almost $30 million in 3 different cases. A lot of that money went directly to the state, and it will be up to the state. But it is expected that we'll be receiving some funds. And we were told that because our school district and other school districts joined on in the suit at the very beginning, we are being awarded what are called incentive payments. So we will receive a little extra money that other school districts will not. That amount is a whopping $2,500, which doesn't seem like a lot, but certainly that is money that we can use to support our student body in various ways. So we'll make sure that it's really targeted around this, around mental health, to support our students. So I wanted you to know that. Since I was on a roll and talking about a lot of the work that's happening in the central office, I wanted you to know that I've just completed the observations that I conduct. Every year I do classroom observations collaboratively with building administrators for some of our probationary teachers. It's an informal, but it's a great way to make sure that we really calibrate. And it keeps me connected to the classroom as well. I really get to see what's going on. And so I've just completed this year roughly 20 is what I did. So wanted you to know that. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to Roy's Carpentry. They've made a donation to rebuild our baseball visiting team dugout that we lost in the storm in December. So we will purchase the material. They're going to construct it and we're going to have a sign that is going to be put up during the season, just saying that they've donated their labor. So shout out to them. And then I just wanted to make sure you're all aware of my schedule. I've talked about it before, but I just want to put it on the forefront again. So May 1st through May 4th, I am attending the National Superintendent's Officers Conference. So that, because I'm currently president, that is paid for entirely by my association. It is not paid at all locally. So I will be at that officers training. That means that I will not be here for the May 2nd school board meeting. Angela will be filling in for me while I'm away. And then I also wanted you to know that the week of May 20th, my schedule is going to be a bit wonky. We are welcoming our 5th grandchild. So.
Is it a girl?
It's a girl, our first girl.
Goodness, finally.
So we are going to be taking care of the boys. And so I will be online as best I can, try to work virtually, but you know, I'm gonna have a 3 and a 5-year-old that I'm taking care of, and those of you who have young kids at home, you know that I don't know how much work I'm gonna get done, but I will do my best. But I wanted you to know that, so if you reach out, I will be paying attention to my email and everything else, but I will not be here in the facility. And that's, I think, all that I have. I think that's plenty.
I think so. Good job.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and for all of your input. I do want to say to board members, you know, these are hard, these conversations are really hard. It's really important when we leave the room and we go out and we're members of our community, talking with our neighbors and our friends, that we support the budget, whether we voted for it or not. We operate as a group. There are no individuals. All of our work gets done right here in this room. And it's really important that whether we agree with how it goes or not, we support it because we speak as a group. So I would ask that we would do that. And these are hard conversations. So thank you. Thank you, staff members, for being here.
And with that, there is an
We
executive
do have an
session.
executive session, so take a 3-minute potty break or whatever.
Could we first have a motion to go for everyone?
Motion to go into executive session.
So you have to take it.
Second, all those in favor?
Curry just texted me and said she could help you with the kids. She said,
Did she want to come to Cal's?
Yeah, she'd love it. She'd love it.
Tell her I appreciate it.
This would have been.
Right, none of it.
Okay, we're back.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion that we accept the superintendent's recommendation on a personnel matter.
Second.
Second by Diane, thank you. Questions or comments? All those in favor?
Great, thank you.
You are released from your
5 minutes
duties.
early?
I know, right?
I was
We could stay 5 more minutes if everyone would like.
This meeting.
Totally thought so.
All right.